Top four, otherwise making the squad.
Do you want me to answer? Make other questions. With Owens, he's impressed us during the season. He's been unlucky with injuries, a couple of other campaigns. She might have made one of the other squads. Unfortunately, he's picked up an injury on the weekend as well. It's going to keep him out for a while. And with Reece, he's been part of our succession plan. We've had a couple of other players on the succession plan, and particularly with the front rowers, we're probably looking at 9 front rowers for the World Cup. We've only picked 3 hookers at this stage, and 4 tight heads and 4 loose heads, just to make sure that if we do pick up an injury, that we've been working with someone else to cover that.
You mentioned Reece as part of your succession plan. With his eligibility, with him joining Saracens at the end of the season, could you just clarify exactly what would happen, say, if he was to win a cap in these warm-up games, how that would affect his eligibility with a contractual situation?
It's only because he's he would have started in terms of his contract already, so I think his contract starts in July. So once he does, if he gets a cap, then the rules that apply to everyone sort of kick in from there.
Do you see him getting a cap perhaps, or is this succession plan?
I haven't got a crystal ball, so look, the thing is, one of the reasons that we've picked a squad of that number is to potentially give everyone an opportunity, and we've got 3 warm-up games before we name the squad, before the last game against Ireland, before we travel out. So we're in a different place at the moment. We're looking at the World Cup in 2015. We were looking at building depth. We feel like we've got a lot of depth at the moment, with 18 players who've had World Cup experience in the squad, and so it's a matter of planning what we're going to do. So it might not be so much mix and matching in terms of the warm-up games. Probably if I look at the warm-up the games in the World Cup, we'll probably go fully loaded against Georgia, fully loaded against Australia, and the same with Fiji. So the changes that we'd make potentially in the World Cup will come in the last game against Uruguay. So we may need to replicate a little bit of that with the warm-up game. So it might not be making too many changes, and it might mean that some players might not get quite the same opportunities as they may have had in the past.
Well, can you give an update on some of the guys who aren't here? Ellis Jenkins, Thomas Young, and whether Reece Webb may ever come back into this equation?
Ellis is, and he's got a long-term injury. Thomas is injured as well. We've picked players in the squad who haven't played or are coming back from injury as well, with Shingler and James Davis as well. And so I think it was us trying to get a balance between not having too many players that hadn't had a lot of rugby, and at the moment I've left a message with Alice in terms of saying that because he's not in the squad at the moment, we'll look at his progress over the next number of weeks, to see where he is, whether someone like himself or Thomas or someone else is added to the squad. At the moment it's not the ideal situation to bring a number of injured players into a squad, because that does put the pressure on your medical staff. Having to deal with 43 players is already a challenge for our medical team, and then having full-time injured players makes it a challenge as well. So we'll keep an eye on where those players are and progress them. And the Reece Webb situation hasn't changed as far as I'm concerned. Yeah.
So in terms of him, would an injury to one of your 3 scrum halves trigger that emergency situation which has been talked about before?
There's no rule in there that says about an emergency situation. So the only thing that I would say to that is that if we did get a couple of scrum half injuries, then maybe common sense would prevail.
Right. Okay. In terms of English-based players, Warren, do you anticipate any difficulties in getting all your players available for when you want?
My understanding is that they are available. Yeah, you know, I understand the conversations are already taking place, and you know, we've kind of from the people that I've spoken to, having been a part of those conversations, have assured me that we will have full release for our players.
Warren, I know the World Cup is obviously the forefront of your mind, but it's hard to avoid stories about your future after the World Cup as well. Has there been any progress since we last spoke to you during Six Nations in terms of what you might do after Wales? No,
I've had quite a number of approaches from different sources, and so it's a matter of making the right decision at the right time. So I just, you know, weighing those things up. But really, to be honest, my whole focus is about the next 7 months, 6, 7 months, and Wales in the World Cup, and you know, I'm not too worried about whether I have a job or don't have a job for a while, or take a bit of a break. And I've spoken about that in the past, and you know, I'm a great believer in what will be, and something, you know, potentially will turn up.
You know, you've been touted for the Lions job again. Is that something that you'd be interested?
Yeah, this is not about the Lions. This is about Wales at the moment. So, you know, I'm not going to speculate about that and talk about the Lions.
What do you make of Robbie McBride's move to?
Oh, it's fantastic for him. You know, it's a great opportunity. You know, all I can say, it's from my point of view, I think it's disappointing. Great for him, but disappointing because I think you have, for him it's a bit longer. I think it's about 13 years of IP that's, you know, just all of a sudden left Wales and gone over to probably our closest rivals. And, you know, they have access now to all that knowledge that he's gained over the last 12 or 13 years, and in terms of knowledge about players and game plans and structures and how things were done. So, you know, it's so from that point of view, it's disappointing. But from a personal point of view, and for him, and having an opportunity and having something post Rugby World Cup is, I think it's great for him. He's been a great servant for Wales as a player and as a coach, and you know, I've a huge amount of respect for him and his integrity and his professionalism and how hard he works in his role. So having that chance, I know for a couple of coaches, you know, there has been a concern about what they were going to do post World Cup. It's a pretty hard time to finish sort of mid-season, and so for him to be able to pick up something, I think it's great. And hopefully the same opportunity will come along for Rob Howley as well.
Are you equally then disappointed that the union hasn't recontracted Sean Edwards?
I think those the union have offered Sean Edwards a contract, and so that's up to him to whether he accepts it or not. So I think that's been in place for a while now, and he's had a few conversations with Wayne Pivac. So he has a definite contract on the table, and that's up to him whether he decides to accept it or not. So, you know, I'm not too sure what his position is going forward. I understand there's some other opportunities for him, and again, it's no different from the conversations that I have with players and coaches. You know, at the end of the day, they've got to make the best decision for them and for their families and for the future, and that's so, you know, he'll make the appropriate decision when the time is right.
Just last one on your future. You joked before that England couldn't afford you. Do you think they've been checking their bank balance to late to see what might happen?
I haven't spoken to England at all, and you know, I think they were quite clear in what they were doing in terms of that they wouldn't be making any appointments or talking to anyone until post Rugby World Cup.
Can I just double check the Reece Carey situation? Sorry, just get it right.
Yeah.
If he's capped in August, does he then become ineligible, or does he become?
His contract with Saracens starts at the end of the season, which I presume starts at the end of June or the 1st of July, wouldn't it?
Yeah. So if he's capped, he's eligible for the World Cup.
No, he would be a Saracens player once he gets capped for us, not a Blues player.
Yeah.
So that's the difference from that.
Yeah, if available for the World Cup, at the end of the 2-year contract with Saracens,
Right.
he has to return to Wales next season.
Yeah.
Right. Thank you.
Just in terms of the warm-up routine, you know, it's quite fire and ice, quite games of thrown, is it, to get the heat as well as the cold?
Sorry, there.
The warm-up routine, you've got some cold weather stuff, you've got some hot weather stuff. The warm-up training camps, all that.
Oh, there's no cold weather stuff.
Probably doing the opposite of that.
Yeah, but it's the middle of summer, so it's free. So you can wear bikinis and stuff up there if you want to. So,
What are you trying to get out of the walk?
the Switzerland one is altitude training. So the idea is that we sleep high and train low. So we come down every day on the cable car, and so we get the effects of that. It's about increasing sort of the blood plasma and red blood cells and all that. And we got some really good results from 2015 going to Feisch, and so we're returning back there. And for the warm weather, we looked at a really good camp in southern Turkey. Facilities there, it's a new camp, but the facilities there are outstanding, and that's probably where we'll look at getting some of the heat stress that we're looking to do. Sort of putting the players in pretty humid and hot conditions, and again, sort of Japan at the time of the year in the World Cup, could be mid to high 20s, early 30s in terms of, depending on temperature, pretty humid at that time. So hopefully we'll get some. Players will replicate some of the conditions that we may experience in Japan, but also the benefits you get from heat stress in terms of training and putting the players under that pressure. We got 4 years ago into Qatar. 45 degrees was a little bit hot, so we're expecting sort of high 30s in Turkey at that time of the year.
We all done for the live part? Thank you very much, everyone.